MONEYFIX Town Hall. And this town hall is going to focus on hot scams. You can see this: hot scams and ripoffs, all of them, or at least most of them, related to COVID-19. We actually did a story tonight at 5, kind of wrapping up some of the other scam stories that we've done in the past. We've done so many that it's hard to keep up. We did a couple of them. We highlighted a couple of them today at 5. And we did tell you that the Federal Trade Commission says consumers have lost $39 million so far to COVID-19 related scams. This is from the beginning of the year. This is just an insane amount of money. This is crazy. So what I want to first do is go around and introduce everybody. Of course, we have Attorney General Kwame Raoul. We have Pete Burness, the president of the Better Business Bureau. We have Todd, he is the regional director of the FTC. And we have City Treasurer Melissa Conyers-Irvin. I've talked to all of you before. You've all been part of I-Team segments before, but it's so cool and so great to have all of you together here. So we're going to go around and just ask you, real casual, about all the scams that are happening and what people really need to watch out for. Attorney General, first, if you could tell me about some of these phony cures and phony masks. I mean, this just sounds despicable. What's going on here?
Yeah, so first off, with regards to cures or treatments or vaccines, the FDA has not approved anything as a vaccine or a cure or a treatment over the counter for COVID-19. So anybody putting out something as such, as a cure, as a vaccine, as a treatment, we've heard chlorine dioxide, essential oils, elderberry, garlic, all these things being put forth as a treatment. There's no such thing that is FDA approved. And so people, they can be ill effects to some of the things that are being put forth as treatments. Also, at-home tests. So there are 2 FDA approved at-home tests, but you have to get them through a doctor. And so anybody saying that you can access an at-home test without the doctor ordering it is a fake test. And we've heard of that out there as well. The bottom line is if you're feeling ill, it's best to go through your primary care physician, through a professional provider, as to what you should do, as to whether you should get tested, as to whether you can seek help through telemedicine, or whether you need to be in person, or whether you need to go to the emergency room. Go through a medical provider before you take anybody else's advice.
Now, as far as the at-home kits go, I mean, I could see maybe someone believing that, but I bet there are people at home that are saying to themselves, well, how is anyone believing that there's really a cure? But obviously people are believing this and falling for this because you're getting the reports. So what's the message you want to send people? And why do you think they're falling for this?
Well, I mean, some of it comes from the very top. People have been receiving messages from our national leaders as to potential remedies, and they say, okay, I'll go out and try it out. And they try out the wrong one that can have a detrimental effect. Even those that are being put forth as potential treatments, you shouldn't do anything without consultation of a medical professional. Trying to cure by yourself can have dangerous effects.
Right. I mean, it's almost like they really are preying on people's fears. Todd Casa, we want to go to you with the FTC and talk a little bit about stimulus check related scams. These are still happening, even though a lot of people have gotten their money via direct deposit. A lot of people have gotten their money in the mail, but the scams are still happening. What are you hearing about how some of these checks are maybe getting intercepted, or how people are getting fooled into handing over their money?
Yeah, so basically scammers follow the news, and they know that the government is in the process of distributing millions and millions of stimulus checks. So they're trying to get their hands on it. And one thing we're seeing is telemarketing calls, where they call people indicate that in order to get your stimulus check, you have to pay money. They can help you get your stimulus check faster, or you have to provide your personal information so they can direct deposit into your bank account. That's just a scam. The government, in distributing these stimulus checks, is not going to call you for that sort of information. They have all the information they need from your tax returns or from your Social Security check information to get you those stimulus checks. The other thing that we're seeing are people getting text messages saying, click here for information on your stimulus check. And it's a form of phishing scam. If somebody, again, the government is not going to send you a text message with information about your stimulus check. If you click on it, it's a phishing scheme where they're, again, going to want your personal information, or perhaps put software on your computer where they can then access the personal and financial information that's on your computer. So those are the main things that we're still seeing with stimulus checks, even though many of them have already been distributed.
And that's amazing too, that they're using the malware. So even just, maybe they're not even trying to get your check, but they're using the check to try to get your personal information. So you click, and that malware can be on your computer or your smartphone, right?
That's correct. Yep.
And it's like they take it over. It's a hijack.
Yeah, yeah. And we're seeing those sorts of phishing scams with a variety of different, imposter scams right now. It's not just the stimulus checks, but people are getting emails and text messages that purport to be from the CDC and the World Health Organization, again, purporting to have information about the safety precautions you should take to avoid getting COVID. Click here for safety information, things like that. And again, they're either phishing for your personal information, or they're going to put malware on your device.
Okay. And Treasurer Melissa Conyers-Irvin, you've also heard about some of these stimulus scams. What's the message you want to tell people if they're maybe still waiting on a check? What should they do, and how do they not fall for a scam?
So we know that we can check the status of the stimulus check through IRS website. However, one of the things that I wanted to mention, in addition to what Todd spoke about, which I thought was very insightful, was the reason that I appreciate a platform such as this, Jason, is because during this pandemic, the focus has been on physical health, which it should, right? Because obviously we can't even talk about any of this without making certain that we are physically healthy. But financial health is also very important. And so scammers right now are taking full advantage of the fact that we are focusing on physical health and not so much as financial health. And so segments such as this are really segments that are important and something that we should be doing more often. And I know that you do this all the time, Jason, but this awareness is important. And so another instance that we're seeing with these up to $1,200 checks for adults and up to $500 for children, some scammers are sending checks. Now, mind you, the check is not saying economic impact check. It may say coronavirus check. It may say stimulus check. Those are incorrect. It should say economic impact check. And what's happening is that they're receiving a check for over $1,200. And so then that party will contact you and say, we've overpaid you, you need to send us money back. Well, obviously by the time that check bounces, your money has already been gone. And so those are just instances to just really be mindful of. And we just want residents to know and understand the IRS. First of all, I don't know many instances where they're going to overpay you by the money that they told you.
Yeah, they're not going to.
That's number one. And then also, I want people to walk away and understand that the IRS does not have time to personally contact you. They just don't. So if you have questions, you should go to the website, or you should research the phone number yourself and you initiate the call.
And, I'm really surprised because I haven't heard of that scam yet. Now, I've heard of the same style of scam. It's been around forever. We're going to talk a little bit about the work from home scams where this happens, where you get the check for a certain amount. You are all excited. you cash that check and you're told for whatever reason, okay, you keep 1,500, just send me back 200.
Exactly.
And this is the same thing. You send back the 200, you think you've gotten more than 1,200, you think you've gotten 1,400, but really you're getting nothing, and you're on the hook for the whole check if it bounces.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
Okay. Well, that's a great warning.
Yeah, it is. And it's many of them out there. But I think the key, as you said, is just to make certain that people understand that the IRS, you have questions, you initiate the call, you research the phone number, and you beware of these scams, because the IRS is not personally contacting you.
Right. They're not going to reach out to you.
No.
I mean, they're having trouble enough dealing with getting money.
Absolutely. They can't even handle the intake that they're receiving.
Right. And speaking of some of the work from home type scams with these checks, Steve Burness, president of the Better Business Bureau, you've warned people about this for a long time, and these work from home scams are also on the rise now because there's so many people desperate for an income.
Exactly, Jason. Millions of people out of work now and looking for a job opportunity. Then you got the college graduates coming out of schools and looking for jobs, and it's ripe for the scammers. And it's actually a dream come true for them. Actually touting that they have a job for you immediately, no questions asked. There's no interview, but unfortunately, sometimes either they want payment or sometimes they want personal confidential information. If you think about it, when you apply for a job, you kind of give them your social security number and things of that nature, which they can use against you in identity theft. So anybody touting that they have a job for you quickly without doing anything, and it's the Better Business Bureau, the tip off to the rip off is paying for anything. Nobody's going to ask for a payment up front to get the job or get the offer itself. It should be free in essence. But so many people out of work, Jason, is that they hear that they got a job and they think they see the golden ticket for them to finally get some financial freedom. And unfortunately, the scammer tells you everything you want to hear, and they have nothing to back it up with. They're just promising you everything, so it's too good to be true. And unfortunately, consumers fall victim to this day in, day out.
Right. I mean, people might hear that they're going to get a $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year job, and all you have to do is send us, $500 for training. But that's not. I mean, you don't have to pay to work.
Exactly. Any type of advance fee is against federal. I'm talking about Todd, but it's against federal law to ask for an advance fee in advance. But any type of fees or any types of information that you normally wouldn't give in these types of situations, you got to be very careful. And as Melissa said too, they actually send payments. So they have like these secret shopper jobs, and you want to do that. It's easy. Who doesn't want to be a secret shopper? So they send you a check to buy supplies, but you got to cash the check and buy the supplies and send them money back. And that's the tip off to the rip off, is that they have this money and the check then, it could take up to 30 days to clear. Most consumers, think usually that 3-day mentality. If it clears in 3 days, the money's mine, but it's not the case. Unfortunately, the bank can come back 29 days later and tell you it's a fake check. You're on the hook for that check, and you're on the hook for depositing a fraudulent check, which is obviously can hurt you in so many different ways. And never ever wire money to anybody that you don't know or that just calls you. Any type of unconventional payment methods is a sign of a ripoff. Whether anything to try to get you to give them money, buy gift cards or send Western Union, anything unconventional like that is something to be looked at, and usually a scam. And use your credit card at all possible, but nothing regarding a working at home offer or a job offer. And you got to do your due diligence, because they say they're legitimate companies. They're calling from XYZ company. XYZ had nothing to do with it, and they have the logos, they have everything stolen, and it looks like you're getting a great job offer. So the key is to check out the company, obviously with the Better Business Bureau first, but also go to that company's website, make sure that person is actually there, and you can trace them directly. As Melissa said, you want to go to their website and make sure that that person is who they are, and go to the website yourself, not following any links.
Right, and make sure it's a legitimate company. I think what a lot of people don't understand, I just know this from my experience doing the stories, is they do see that check clears after a couple days, and they think, oh, I'm good to take out that money. But the banks, I think this goes back to some other laws to have funds available. The do allow the funds to be available, but that does not mean the check cleared, right?
Exactly. 99% of consumers thinking that 3 days the check clears is good as gold, and it's not the case. The bank could come up 30 days later and let you know that is a fraud check and they want their money back, and you're in trouble for putting in a fake check into their account as well. So you get actually double whammied on those. Unfortunately, most people don't realize that. Anybody, like Melissa said, sends you payment and then they say it's an overpayment and you have to send money back or wire them money. 100%.
Yeah. And back to Attorney General Raul, I think we're also hearing a lot more now. This is sad too, charity scams. So, this is a time when so many people really do need charity, but then the scammers are setting up fake charities.
Yeah, exactly. This is a time when, people who, unfortunately, this is a time when a lot of people are losing their jobs and people are in need. And so for those that do have, they want to help. And so unfortunately, there are those out there who look for times of crisis to prey upon others who have a charitable heart. Our office is charged with registering anybody who solicits as a charity from anybody within the state of Illinois. So step one can take in researching a potential charity that they think about giving to, particularly when it's an unsolicited ask for a donation, is to check with our office to see whether or not that charity is in good standing and registered with our office within the state of Illinois. Additionally, one should research, what is their donation going to be used for? What is the rating of this charity? There are steps you can take to make sure that you're not falling prey to somebody that's just taking advantage of a crisis.
Right. And you can check online. I mean, there are special websites to check charities, but even another simple tip is even just put in charity and scam in Google, the name of the charity and the word scam in Google, and that might be a bit of a hint, right?
Exactly. And again, as Steve just mentioned, with regards to if a charity asks you to donate by gift card or by wire transfer, be suspicious.
Right. I mean, who's going to use a gift card to donate to a charity? I think one thing we always tell people is to use a credit card whenever possible, because they can dispute a charge.
Exactly. And so
yeah.
if the charity says gift card, a wire transfer, or some other electronic payment that's anonymous, be suspicious.
Right. And Treasurer Conyers Irvin, I know that when we've talked to the Attorney General about this too, well, we could go back to him as well, but we also want to talk to you about price gouging. That's been a huge topic. I did a story on this about a month and a half ago about price gouging and how you should not let it scare you into buying something right away. You can go to another store. I think things are getting a little bit better because the shelves are now getting stocked up, but you're saying this is still a problem.
And in some instances, it seems like the stores are getting stocked up. Many people that I speak to on a daily basis are still saying that it's very difficult to purchase merchandise. But this kind of leads into the ripoffs, right? That we talk about, price gouging. One of the things that I wanted to state, Jason, to kind of piggyback on what the gentlemen, all three, had mentioned, the only thing that kept ringing in my mind was a crisis produces prime time for scams. It's just prime time. I mean, I've just heard just now within 15 minutes, so many different scams that it would make your head spin. And at the end of the day, people that are listening have to take into consideration of convenience. Scammers usually want to do things fast. And so you got to be mindful of that. Take some time, relax, think about it, do your research, because scammers come in and they want to do everything very quickly. But in regards to price gouging, this pandemic is stressful enough. And then you look at people that are low on funds, which is something that has been discussed, since we've been on this call. But price gouging is not only inconvenient, people need to understand that it's illegal. And that's something that you don't hear a lot about. People just talk about it, talk about the inconvenience, but it's illegal. Now, certainly we understand supply and demand, right? We all understand that. We understand that prices may increase on emergency items. We understand that prices may increase with demand, but excessive pricing is illegal. And so you mentioned about, shopping around at different stores. That's important, but also planning ahead is important. A lot of times we end up spending more on an item when it's at the last minute and we're in dire strait. And so also we want to take into consideration to do our research. There are several websites that are available so that you can research pricing, like keepa.com, like Camo. Yeah, Camo, just like Camo. Camo.com. Those are websites, just examples that are available for you. And then I appreciate that we have Attorney General Raul on the line, but everything that his team is doing so that they can investigate and make certain that they put an end to this. And there's a lot of work with this because it is all over. And it's not just cleaning supplies, sanitizing items. It's also food. It's many items. The Attorney General even spoke about masks and things of that, PPE, but there are so many items that are affected through price gouging. And so we just want to make certain to do our due diligence, but also know that there is a solution if there is price gouging, and that is where our Attorney General comes in.
Yeah, and that's a great bridge to Attorney General. Tell me about what's been done. And we talked about this a little bit for those who don't know. What have you guys done about price gouging? I know that thousands of complaints came in initially, correct?
Yeah, we've had I think close to 1,800 complaints, and the approach that we take is to we take in the call, and luckily we've been able to have our attorneys and our staff work remotely, but they're working hard, and so they take the calls, they contact the seller, the retailer, and we begin to inquire about the allegation. And in many cases, the allegation of gouging can be one where a price has legitimately been increased, where the cost of getting the product from a manufacturer has made the price go up, or it's the end of a sale or something of that nature. But there have been instances where, in fact, there's a retailer or seller who is trying to take advantage of a crisis, and in just about all of our cases, we've been able to have that seller voluntarily comply with our call to return the price to a legitimate price. So in instances when that wouldn't happen, we have at our disposal the Consumer Fraud and Deceptive Practices Act, which we could file for an injunction or for fines based on every instance of price gouging.
And I like what you said about you're able to talk to these stores and try to get them to bring the price down. I mean, I guess, we don't want people doing something illegal or taking advantage of anyone, but it's a hard time because, you find a store, you shut them down, maybe arguably it was a mistake, and it's a bad time probably for stores to be fined, right?
Yeah, and it's important to note too, it's how we as consumers may contribute to the increase of prices. The treasurer mentioned supply and demand. At the outset of this crisis, everybody went out and bought toilet paper. People were not going to the bathroom that much. I went to the grocery store yesterday and I saw mysteriously there was toilet paper back on the shelves. And so the emergency that somehow we would be out of toilet paper to use seems to have been resolved. But the price of toilet paper went up and people were gouging on toilet paper because people were buying more toilet paper than they needed. And so we've got to be good neighbors in this time of crisis.
And speaking of that, really quick before we get to another topic, this is somewhat related, but does anybody know when you're going to be able to get disinfectant wipes? I mean, has anyone talked to the manufacturers, or have we heard anything?
Now through the city, because we're kind of talking about phase 3 and how what we're going to do as far as our offices is teleworking. I'll tell you, I'm still hearing that it's months out. Still hearing that.
What I would suggest, Jason, is that, you know, the disinfectant wipes are convenient because you have the disinfectant and the wipes in the same package, but there are all sorts of products that you can use to clean surfaces that you don't necessarily have to have the product sold in one. There are also sprays and soap and just common everyday cleansers that are good enough.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. 409 and paper towel.
Right.
There you go.
And so, Steve, I know you guys also sent out a release about this probably a few weeks ago. It's unusual scam, but it's also hitting hard as well. This is the puppy scam. Now, it's been around forever, but you're seeing resurgence. Why?
Yeah, normally we see a surge around the holidays when people are buying puppies. Now with everybody home looking for companionship, there's been increased demand. And so I guess scammers go where the people are. So they're touting that they have these puppies, adorable puppies. And I've seen some of the pictures, and you've seen them, Jason. There's beautiful dogs. They're one of a kind. Unfortunately, that picture is used on a million different websites, the same picture. There are no dogs. We're seeing consumers losing lots of money, somewhere up to $5,000 last week, saying they had this dog, but you have to pay in advance, of course, and not by credit card. They want either wire transfer or gift card or something like that. And then they start calling you again. Well, you know what? We can't get him on the airline. We need this fee, or we need to take him to the vet. Well, you're so far involved that people keep spending it. They'll stop. The scammer will stop when they realize that you ran out of money. And that's unfortunate. We had a woman last week in Manuka whose daughter touched a dog and she told it was a scam. They lost about $800 and the child couldn't sleep all night. She was devastated. So they build these bonds, with these dogs they don't have. They show them videos, they show them everything. So be careful when you're buying online. The Better Business Bureau issued a study, as you know, in September of 2017, and the complaints still keep coming in. In April this year, they're up 300% over last April. Numbers continue to escalate, not only locally, but nationally as well. And we suggest you shop local, do with local breeders that you can see, because they give you all these excuses, these scammers, that you can't see the dog because of COVID-19, or we're too far away, or we're going to ship it to you. And unfortunately, they have no dog to deliver. And one good thing to do is to take that dog picture and reverse Google search it. A lot of consumers don't realize that you can reverse Google search a picture and see where else on the internet it lies. And you'll be amazed how many of those websites that same dog is on, because it's a beautiful dog with beautiful green eyes that you fall in love with just looking at the picture, and the scammer knows that.
Yeah, so like if there's a pink bow around the dog and you do a reverse Google image search, that may show up, because that's how Google kind of captures those pictures. It may show up on 10 other websites that are questionable, and you know not to do that. I mean,
it's actually hundreds of websites it appears on, not just tens. It's hundreds of websites.
Hundreds. Oh, well, that's the big clue, right? Hundreds.
Hundreds of websites, and that they have the dog for immediate delivery. And these are usually one-of-a-kind dog, Yorkshire Terriers, the ones that are sought after. And they tell you everything you want to hear. The dog has been fixed, neutered, everything that you want to know. But then there's always the problem. You need to pay additional funds. And consumers, can lose over $5,000, and they this puppy, and they're not getting the puppies. An unfortunate situation. But we need people to report this to Scam Tracker. That really helps us and the authorities, because all the government agencies have access to our Scam Tracker to find out these scams, where they're at, who's doing them. And basically, even if you don't fall for a victim of a scam, go to the Better Business Bureau website to report it to us.
Right, and the best way to avoid puppy scam, and I know you touched on this, but just to reiterate a little bit, is go to a local store or go to the Animal Cruelty Center, and you can get a free dog. Humane societies.
right? There's a number of places that you can go locally and see the dog firsthand, and please pay with your credit card. No other ways of unconventional, as the treasurer said, they ask you these information and other ways of paying. People are doing it. It's amazing that people go out and buy gift cards and scratch off the numbers and read the gift card numbers to the scammer, and they continue on until they bleed you dry. That's the only way they stop.
All right. Well, we lost Todd Costa. I'm not skipping over him. I think he's trying to get back on. And if they can hear me back at the station, I don't know if there's anything you can do. It looks like he's calling in, but we can't get the video. So I'm not skipping over him. But Treasurer, the other thing we wanted to talk about, and we did a story about this with the home refinancing your home and potentially a loan modification and all the legitimate ways you can save. But let's also talk about the scams associated with this. So there are scammers preying on home refinancing.
There are, and it's important that you mentioned we did a full segment about how the one good thing that can come out of COVID-19 is that you can refinance your home, you can get a line of credit, but we spoke about how you can decrease the term on your loan and get an even better interest rate, right? But it's doing it the right way. And, we spoke about, scammers that are knocking on your doors, providing offers that sounds too good to be true. There's also in instances where you have credit agencies, like working credit agencies, as they call it, credit repair agencies. That's it. Not working credit, because working credit is a good agency that I know about, but credit repair agencies that are reaching out to you, inviting you in to say, hey, let me help you purchase a home. Because the truth of the matter is interest rates are great right now on homes. And a lot of scammers are taking advantage of that. And so it sounds great if you're looking to move and you're looking to purchase a home or looking to refinance. You go into these workshops and then the scammers say, oops, you know what? You actually don't qualify right now. Let's work on repairing your credit. And then let's talk about the monthly fee. And then now, guess what? You're back to square one, which is a whole nother topic that we could talk about that I know we don't have time to do right now. But residents do not need to pay anyone to help them fix their credit. You can yourself reach out to the creditors. You can talk about payment plans. There are so many options that are available right now. If you initiate it, I always talk about initiating, but you need to initiate it and you need to be proactive, because we have to make certain that we're reaching out to our creditors ahead of time and not waiting until, of course, that everything is past due and then it feels as if you're completely overwhelmed. But the real theme in all of this is it sounds too good to be true. And when deals sound too good to be true, we were raised on that, right? Our parents said, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Not to say that for certain that's the case, but you have to take a step back, do your due diligence and say, let me really evaluate this. Let me go to a credible financial counselor. Let me go to a credible home consultant so that we can make certain that we are doing things in the right manner. Now, Jason, I want to mention one other thing about rental, if that was okay.
Go fast. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yes. So one of the other scams that we're seeing is with rental. Yes. Now, moving is already stressful, but we have people that because of the pandemic, they are saying, oh, you know what, you have to send me the security deposit and I can give you this apartment, but I can't allow you to come and visit or take a look because of social distancing. And so you're sending money because you're desperate. You may need to get another apartment. Who knows what the situation is? And it looked like a great apartment. But then if you haven't visited the home, I don't care if you FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, show me that you're inside that house and you're walking around. And not only that, because who knows, you could be visiting a family member's house, but you make certain that you have a contract in hand. You have a lease in hand, because you want to make certain that before you provide any funds, and a lot of times it's great deals, And so you think, let me get on it right away. Oh my gosh, this apartment is dirt cheap. Let me get on it right away. Hold on. If it sounds too good to be true, sometimes, unfortunately, it is.
Then it is way too good to be true. And I like what you said about have them Zoom or have them FaceTime the apartment. At least that helps a little bit to prove that they have access to the apartment. Now, it may not be 100% guaranteed, but at least it helps you, and that's one safeguard. And then you can also make sure that you're having a lease, that maybe you can put a security deposit on a credit card. I mean, like you said, act slowly, don't act too fast. These scammers want you to act quickly when you're not thinking.
Right. And they're going to always offer you something that is just too good to pass up.
Yeah. And I know we talked a little bit about stimulus checks already, but I want to get back to this with Attorney General Raul. Nursing home residents are being told to turn over stimulus checks. This is now a problem.
Yeah. Well, we've heard of this on a limited basis. We haven't yet investigated one that has come to the level of needing recourse. However, we have heard of instances of people complaining about nursing homes asking for stimulus checks. First of all, it's important to understand that the CARES Act considers the stimulus payments as a tax credit. And so it's not something that can be garnished or redirected to paying programs such as Medicaid or paying the nursing home for the services that the nursing home is providing to the resident. That check should be going directly to the resident. So if anybody's approached with such claim that they have the right to seize the stimulus check to pay for their stay at the nursing home, that is an invalid claim, and they should report that.
Right. I mean, that's their money. That's not money to go back to the nursing home.
Correct.
And this is a time for kids to be looking out for their parents and their grandparents right now to make sure that that money is in their hands. Particularly
when you start thinking about residents of nursing homes. We've heard of higher incidents of COVID in nursing home. You're talking about a population that is generally vulnerable, even if we're not in such a healthcare crisis, a pandemic. But given the risk, the increased risk that they're exposed to, the fact that they're on a limited income to begin with, the notion that they would have such a tax credit check that would be coming from the government seized unlawfully is unconscionable. Yeah, and I mean it's just so sad that someone would scam someone that is so vulnerable. But like all these scams, the scammers are heartless, right? That's true. And so we have to be on the watch and not be deceived by claims as convincing as they may sound that they have a right to do something like that. And Steve, I want to touch base again with you on the HVAC scam. This is fascinating to me. We talked about this before too. There's companies that are saying they can get rid of the COVID-19 by cleaning your HVAC, your ducts, and they're saying they can help prevent it from coming into your house as well. And we were told by some of the legitimate heating contractors and air conditioning that these are telemarketers that are outside of our area and just trying to sell you the services of somebody else. So we saw early reports on them. We sent some, warning letters ourselves and asked for substantiation. Some of them, it's like the whack-a-mole game. One comes up, one goes down. The amount of fake websites out there is just, it's unbelievable. So you have to do your due diligence on those organizations and make sure they're reputable organizations. Facebook said last month, the first 3 months of 2020, they took down 1.7 billion fake pages. And that's a lot. 1.7 billion in 3 months they took down the pages. So consumers just need to deal with reputable organizations. And if anybody's great, like the Attorney General said, if there's any great offers of getting rid of this virus, there is none. You got to take that with a grain of salt, and you got to trust the source it's coming from. And
As the treasurer said, I think one of the keys to the tip off to the rip off is that they want you to act quickly. Usually it's within 30 minutes. They don't want you to think about it. They don't want you to ask your son, your daughter, anything like that. As you know, the Better Business Bureau says the only thing you should do in 30 minutes is buy a pizza, and that's it. Everything else, think about it, research them, look at the Better Business Bureau website, check with the Attorney General's office on their website, and you'll find out there's a lot of legitimate businesses out there. Unfortunately, the bad actors take advantage of the people in situations like this.
All right, a pizza sounds good right about now. What I want to do one more time, we have a couple minutes left. There's not an exact time. We can start to wrap up, but I had so many questions that I also want to just give you all the opportunity to go around. We can start with the Attorney General about maybe something I missed. Is there a hot new scam that people need to know about right now? I mean, there's so many of them, or just anything else you want to add?
Yeah. I'll put that in here. One of the things I want to add is, I talked about how we've worked as in our consumer protection unit, but some of the calls we get for scams, we deal with both on the civil side as well as on the criminal side. And during this time of crisis, it's great to work using collective resources. And so the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Northern, Central, and Southern District of Illinois has put together a task force in each one of those districts on which we serve. And we get to collaborate with the FBI, with the U.S. Attorney's Office, with the state police, with local law enforcement on battling some of these scams, whether it's products like masks. We didn't get a chance to talk about masks too much earlier, but you mentioned at the outset fake masks. Everybody's become obsessed with N95 masks. First of all, let me say this as the spouse of an anesthesiologist who's had to treat COVID patients. We ought to reserve those N95 masks for frontline workers, for healthcare workers, and for those who need that protection. For the masks that were required as just lay people to wear in public, we can use all sorts of things that suffice as those masks. So when we talk about fake N95 masks, the people that we want to protect the most are hospitals, the government, who are in the business of purchasing these to protect frontline workers that are at higher risk. And so if you're at home occasionally just going out to the park or going to the grocery store, you shouldn't feel compelled to go out and buy a bunch of N95 masks to go out and complete that task. We ought to be thinking about our healthcare workers, our EMT, our police officers, and those who are working in higher risk roles.
Right. The people who really need the masks. So the average person on the street does not need special masks. They need a face covering. And I think we have Todd Gosso back. Can you hear us?
I can barely hear you, Jason. Can you hear me?
Okay. But you can hear me, so let me, just in case we lose you again, we're going around just asking, anything I might have missed, or is there a new scam that's really hot right now people should know about? I mean, I know we did the story about fake online websites.
Yeah, so fake online websites are a big problem right now, selling in-demand products like masks and hand sanitizer. A lot of these are offshore. So what they're going to do is you'll place an order and they'll take your money. They'll process your credit card or other payment mechanism, and then you just won't get the product. And because most of these websites are offshore, what the Department of Justice is doing and what the FTC is doing is trying to get domain registrars to just take the websites down, because there's not effective law enforcement that you can otherwise do with folks who are offshore like that.
Right. And I know you want to urge people to report these, even if they're, like, let's say the legitimate company's pictures have been taken down, they've solved the issue, this was in our piece. You still want people to report those so they can possibly eventually catch the bad guys, right?
Exactly. And it's the more reports we get, the easier it is for us to convince the domain registrars to take down the websites. So the reports are extremely, extremely important.
Okay. Anything else that Todd, that the FTC is hearing right now, or that is different, new, something that people should really be aware of?
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed most of the call because I've been having technical difficulties. But if you didn't talk about robocalls,
yeah, robocalls,
robocalls, COVID-related robocalls have been a big issue. The scammers, pretty quickly adjusted, came up with a whole bunch of new robocall scams, selling test kits, special access for Medicare recipients, things like that. And then they also adjusted common robocalls like the Social Security call that's been around for several years, where they now focus on the fact that your Social Security number has been suspended due to the coronavirus. And they either want you to pay or provide personal information in order to be able to access your Social Security number again.
And there's, of course, been an uptick in these robocalls too. Like there weren't enough already. Now there's even more.
Yeah, fortunately, overall robocall numbers are down. And one thing the FCC has done during the pandemic is we've been able to track robocalls to certain VoIP providers that are helping. So most of the robocalls are coming from offshore, but there are VoIP providers in the U.S. who are helping them access the U.S. telephone system. And we've been able to track that, and we've sent warning letters to those companies saying you've got to cut it out. We've done that in conjunction with the FCC, and the FCC has warned them that if they don't cut it out within 48 hours of receiving our call or our warning letter, that they'll stop transmission of calls to those VoIP providers. So we've had good success with those robocalls. So overall, complaint numbers about robocalls fortunately are down, but we do see a lot of sort of COVID-specific calls that have popped up since the pandemic started.
Right, and I know the carriers are increasing their technology too, to use the real caller ID so you can avoid robocalls as well. But that's a whole nother topic.
Right.
What do you want people to know that we might have missed? I mean, I can't believe how many scams there are now related to COVID-19. Every time I turn around, there's a new one.
Yeah, I think people just need to take a breath when they encounter a scam, to not act quickly. Scammers want you to act quickly before you have time to really think about what they're asking you to do. Talk to a friend or relative about what you're being asked to do. And usually if you take your time and talk to somebody else about it, you'll realize that what they're asking you to do is part of a scam and not a legitimate transaction.
Right, just take a breath. And Steve, what else are we hearing at the BBB? What are you guys hearing?
What we're hearing is moving out east is coming this way is the contract scams, contact tracing, where they call you up and they say that you've been in close proximity to somebody who has the virus, and click this link here for further information. And unfortunately, as the Attorney General mentioned earlier, they can lock up the phones of people and they can hold it hostage and ransomware as well. So be careful of those contact tracing scams because it's new, it's novel. And of course, the scammers always find a twist to try to find a way to separate you from your money. 90% of our complaints to our Better Business Bureau scam tracker in April, 90% were regarding COVID type scams. As you said, Jason, every day we see a new twist to an old scam. And that's why the Better Business Bureau scam tracker is so important because as Todd said, look up the organization, but more importantly, look up the offer they're saying, and you can see all the other scams across North America. We also have Mexico and Canada. So if you get a call from the IRS, go to our scam tracker and you put in IRS, you'll see all the scams associated with it. It's not the IRS, it's the scammers using the IRS's name. I guess my biggest frustration in my 32-year career at the Better Business Bureau has been from consumers who don't do their due diligence ahead of time. You do it after the fact. They spend all this time with the scammers, they give them all this money, then at the end they realize they've been duped. They call us. Well, yeah, we could try to help them, but as you know, most of these organizations are offshore and there's nothing you can do. They can spend the 2 minutes or 2 seconds with us and find out if this offer or this company is fake, fraudulent, or what the other consumers have said about them. Because we rate companies too from A+ to F. And we also have the scams in that particular industry because there's a bad actor in every industry, and especially with the COVID-19, as the treasurer said, they're coming out of the woodworks. I've never seen so many scams in my 32-year career because it affects everybody. It's not just affecting a certain demographic. Everybody could be a victim of COVID-19, and therefore the scammer has a field day. It's a dream come true for them. Please check out the offer first before doing business with the company.
Wow. So 32 years, you haven't seen this scams, really? That's amazing.
Nonstop. We're working, all day and all night on these scams. We can't keep up. But consumers need to help us and let us know what's happening so we can let the authorities know and prevent this from happening to others. Because, like you say, it's a whack-a-mole game. A site will pop today, gone tomorrow, and consumers are not doing their homework. And now it's easier. When I started 32 years ago, we had the internet. We had none of the things we have today at our disposal. So please search before doing it. Again, 30 minutes. They want you to do something, that's usually a scam. Just buy pizza and that's it.
That's it, pizza. Treasurer Connie Zervin, anything that we left out, or is there a new scam or a ripoff that you're hearing about from people on the street?
I just think a couple of things. I just want to make certain that everyone knows that they can access their credit report for free each year. I think that's important, especially during a time such as this with all the scammers that are out, with possible identity thefts, with the personal information that may have been provided accidentally. Please make certain that you visit all 3 agencies, and an easy website to go to is annualcreditreport.com. If you go to annualcreditreport.com, you can access all 3 agencies' free credit report. And I think that's important. And I just wanted to just make certain that we get through this. That's what's important for me, Jason. As the city treasurer, I always tell people my role on a normal basis is to protect taxpayers' dollars, but also empower taxpayers financially. And so for me, this is so important, these topics and these sessions, because I want to make certain that we get through this. We want to get through this physically healthy, but we also want to be financially healthy. And one thing that I want to mention that I always try to mention on as many platforms as possible, if you can pay your bills, please pay them. And I say that for a reason. Right now on my website at chicago-city-treasurer.com, we have a lot of financial tips available, resources that are out there. If you cannot pay your bills, ways to be proactive in contacting your debtors to make certain that you are letting them know that you cannot pay your bills and you need to get on a payment plan, your creditors rather. But be certain, delay does not mean forgiveness. So what we don't want to happen, that you are able to pay your bills, but you may say, they're allowing me to get 2 months or 3 months later and I could just pay my bills then. Well, in 2 to 3 months later, what happens when we have 2 or 3 months payment due on everything? And then Now that situation has become worse. And so I always tell people, please, in addition to these scams and ripoffs that we're talking about, let's not think that delay means forgiveness. Now, resources are available if we need them. But if we can pay our bills, which we know some people are bringing in more money now, even unemployed, than they were employed, with the additional funding of unemployment, additional SNAP benefits, the stimulus payment, you name it. There are so many options now. But even with all of that, we understand that some people cannot pay their bills. So if they cannot, that's what those resources are for.
Right. And if you can pay it, you should pay it. And then I like what you said about watching out for the scammers too, who are offering you deals on payment plans or loan modifications or refinancing or saying they can reduce your credit. I mean, nobody's going to reach out to you for this. You reach out to them.
That's right. Always initiate. And remember, out of everything, if you can't remember anything else off of this call, if deals sound too good to be true, unfortunately, more times than not, they probably are.
That's a great way, I think, to end it for the theme for the hot scams and ripoffs related to COVID-19 and the coronavirus. This is our MONEYFIX Town Hall, our first IT MONEYFIX Town Hall. I want to thank all of you for being here with me today, spending so much time, committing your time to us, to ABC7, and of course, all of the viewers out there. Hopefully a lot of people are watching and they're listening to all these scams, and maybe we've saved some people some money. So thank you, Steve Burness from the BBB, Attorney General Kwame Raoul, Todd Kosser from the FTC, and Treasurer Melissa Conyers-Pervin. So thank you all, and